Hi, everyone. I'm here today with Sue, and I've been watching her channel for, I don't know, a while now, Sue. I don't know how long, but a long time. And what intrigues me most about your story is you're not one of those like, I went carnivore and 90 days later, my problems are solved. And so
No.
I, right? So I wanted to sit down and talk with you about what your health journey has been. How did you even find carnivore? What are some of the things that carnivore has helped you with, and then what hasn't it helped you with?
Okay.
So how did you first find the carnivore diet? Have you always, gravitated toward meat, or did you have some other way of eating?
No. I was very, very much into the whole plant-based side of things. So my my background is my dad was vegetarian. He was heading into vegetarianism when I was a child. And so he had a lot of influence on me. And so my whole belief was that plants were the healthy thing. Meat wasn't so great. So I've had periods in my life where I was vegetarian. I was vegetarian for over 10 years. And then I was vegan for a couple of years solid, and then in and out of a vegan diet as well, right up until when I started carnivore age 58. So it was quite a mind shift for me to kind of switch from the whole plant-based thing to eating meat. And yeah, it was yeah, took a little bit of getting used to, and wrapping my head around not buying plants, yeah, and not eating them. So quite different to where I was.
Wow. Yeah, I always have eaten meat and enjoyed it. But I had the balanced diet or whatever you want to
Mm.
call it. I can't imagine only eating vegetables or only eating plant foods. So you got into that because your dad was sort of leaning that way. So from how old were you till to the age of 58? Like what,
Mm.
teenager until then?
Oh, well, dad started eating, like heading into a vegetarian diet when I was quite young. Like I think I was at
Oh,
probably, I don't know, 10, 11, something like that.
wow.
And I mean, he's pescatarian now, so he'll be 90 in March.
Okay.
And his diet has served him pretty well, but he's got some health issues now. And I can't help thinking, if you just eat some meat, Dad, some of that would resolve. But that's just the
Yeah.
way it is. Yeah, and I can't make him do anything. But he's, like the influence of him was pretty huge. And so I remember trying, the first time I actually went vegetarian was when I was a teenager. So I kind of had to dip my toes into the vegetarian side of things as a teen. And then, even as kids, we didn't eat a lot of meat. I think because Dad was sort of more inclined that way, and meat was expensive. Money was a little bit scarce, especially when I was young. Um, you'd get your plate, and there might be, and there was 5 kids, so I was the oldest of 5, and so you'd get your plate, and there'd be this little piece of really overcooked kind of something really tough on the plate, and potatoes, and whatever was cheap, bread, and then desserts, with like custard or rice pudding or things like that were cheap, tin fruit, those sorts of things. So that was kind of our diet growing up. And yeah, so quite different. And then as I got older, because I had health issues pretty much from when I was a kid, so lots of digestive issues, and had my tonsils out when I was 5 because I was sick all the time with tonsillitis when I was little. And so lots of antibiotics as well. And then, yeah, so where was I heading? I just have to have a think. So when I was young, that was our diet, and then headed into a vegetarian diet when I was a teenager, dipped my toe in. So there was always there was meat kind of there for a lot of years, but not a lot. And even because I started eating meat again, so I was vegetarian for over 10 years, started eating meat again, probably I was in my early 40s. I'm 60 now, so that's how long ago that was. But still, it was funny because when I first started eating meat again, I couldn't get enough of it. And I was eating these huge steaks. I remember my dad looking at me one day, we were out somewhere, and he looked at my plate, so this massive steak. I should have known then, because I just could not get enough meat into me. But when I started eating meat again at that point, I was doing a lot of exercise, and I had been for years, but I could never run. I always felt like my legs were really kind of heavy and not right. When I started eating meat again, suddenly I could run, and because I was doing some triathlons and stuff, and so that changed, and I knew that had changed. I didn't know why, but I knew that had changed. But still, like once I got over that initial, 6 months or whatever, where I couldn't get enough meat in, I was eating meat, but still really highly plant-based, still really focused on plants, and I'd still go into a vegan diet all the time, because I had kind of ongoing health issues going on, hormonal issues, digestive issues, thyroid issues, all of this stuff. My thought was that plants were healthy, the healthy option, and raw had to be better, right? If they're good cooked, they've got to be better raw. So that was kind of where I kept going. It's just like repeating the same madness over and over again, just expecting to get a different result, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah. Is that because of the narrative in society that like you got to eat plants? I mean, I remember we were, like I said, my family, we ate a little bit of everything, but yeah, definitely I got the message from my mom that the vegetables were the healthiest part. That's where the vitamins are, that kind of thing. Do you think it was like the message from society, the food pyramid, all that kind of stuff as to why you thought that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all part of it, definitely. And lots of influences online, because I've always been like, I'm one who digs into information and research and stuff, always have done. And so, you end up down a trail with certain types of people that you're listening to. And that just, like I ended up with an overactive thyroid when I was 44, which is a horrendous condition. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And rather than go down the mainstream route, I decided I was going to sort it myself, which I did. But the first thing that I did was I did a 78-day juice feast. So I lived on fresh juices for 78 days, between 3 and 4 liters of juices. Now that it slowed my symptoms right down and really reduced them. Didn't resolve the problem, but it reduced them. But it just caused my gut. So that was really the beginning of the end for my gut, because it really caused a problem. And so, but I was listening to these people online who were doing all this stuff about juice feasting and how amazing it was for you. And so that was, Yeah,
I've known people that have gotten into that whole juice thing, and then they drink the juice and then they take the pulp and put it into like muffins and stuff like that. And they think that that's
I didn't do that.
Amazing. And I now looking at that now, I'm just like horrified because of all the sugar and things that they're just straight, gosh, it's almost like injecting it or something. So how did that switch flip for you? Was it one day you saw a carnivore influencer, or like how did you decide to go to carnivore? Was it like a drastic thing? Was it a gradual thing? How did you hear about it?
It was drastic. I jump into things feet first. So what happened? My daughter mentioned carnivore to me probably about 3 years before I started. She was doing a lot of fasting and fat fasting at that stage. And, obviously the people that she was listening to online were talking about carnivore at that point. I'd never heard of it. And when she mentioned it to me and, she said she was thinking about trying it, I kind of was like, whatever. I was horrified. I was like, no way. No way. I just thought she was mad. But, I don't tell my kids what to do. So I just was like, if you want to do that, you do it, And so just kind of forgot about it after that. And then a couple of months before I actually started on carnivore, I decided my health was getting so bad, like I was really, really overweight. Felt like I was dying. I felt like there was something really serious was going to happen. I just had all this stuff going on in my body that I just knew I was kind of on that verge. I've been there before when I was in my late 20s, and I was on that verge of something really bad happening. And so I thought, right, I'm going to do the keto diet, because I'd kind of played with keto a little bit over probably the prior 2 or 3 years. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do keto. So I started keto, and I was on it for a couple of months. And I mean, my weight loss, I was dropping some weight. I was down about 6 kilos. But I was following Dr. Mindy Pels on YouTube, and she interviewed Paul Saladino. So Paul was actually my introduction to carnivore. And so I listened to this interview, and Paul's story kind of really resonated with me. And so I ordered his book online that day, not realizing that, I don't know whether he'd started eating fruit at that stage or not, but, I was just very grateful to him and him being so kind of honest about his story. And so bought his book, started reading his book, jumped in. And because my husband, he's poor thing. He's like, we've been married for 40 years and he's used to me chopping and changing all the time. And he just kind of goes with the flow these days. And I said to him, I'm going to stop, I'm going to go on this carnivore diet. And he was just like, my Lord. And because we'd actually been on a vegan diet prior to me going keto. He had decided to try vegan for the first time ever. So hubby is now 66. And he's not a big guy at the best of times. And we had watched Game Changers. This was prior to keto. We'd watched Game Changers, and it was him that said to me, "Oh, maybe we should go vegan," because the Game Changers documentary got him. And so I'm like, sweet, because that was always my thing. So we actually went vegan for about 3 months. He dropped 15 kilos in 3 months.
Whoa.
All the muscle fell off him. He was so wrinkly. His arms were like skin and bone and wrinkles. All the skin was just hanging off them. Didn't kind of realize, and it tanked his thyroid. So his thyroid's just coming good now. So anyway, when I did the keto, and then I said to him, I'm going to do this carnivore diet. I mean, carnivore was much more up his alley. He's always been a meat eater. And he was like, oh, okay. So he initially ate some veggies to start with, and then he stopped with the veggies because he decided it was just way easier just to eat meat. But he still eats sourdough bread. We make sourdough bread. I make it for him. And he bakes it, and he still eats that every day. But apart from that, he eats the same as I do pretty much. And so, so that was it. We just kind of, I dove in because I have to. I'm not really a moderator as such. Like I can moderate some things. I'm pretty good at saying no to myself these days because I've been all over the place with my diet over the years. But to gradually move into carnivore wouldn't have worked for me. I had to just go, okay, that's it. Cutting that out, doing this. And I'm so glad that I did, because even though I've had a lot of problems with, my bowel and stuff, and, some other things that have kind of flared up since I've been on carnivore, a lot of things changed in those first couple of weeks that let me know I was on the right track. So, because, the first thing when I started, had some little, like, keratoses, like the rough sunspot things on my hands. And there was quite a big one. There was quite a big one here. That disappeared like within about a week. And I was like, oh my God, I've still got some little tiny ones that kind of come and go, but there was quite a bit, and it was getting worse on there. It's like that when that changed, I was like, okay. And then I'd been having these dizzy spells every day, like that felt like I was going to pass out. And I'd been having nosebleeds quite often, 2 or 3 times a day, every day. And that all stopped as well. Within about, I can't remember, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, it all really started to change quite fast. And the feeling, I was getting this feeling in my heart as well at night time when I was in bed, where it was doing weird things, and that stopped fairly quickly as well. So those things changing really made me kind of sit up and take notice. And I was like, okay, because I originally thought I'd give myself 30 days. I'll try it for 30 days, see how I go. And I was like, okay, I'm staying here, because some of the things that were really concerning me changed pretty quickly. And so,
So you mentioned with all the juicing, you noticed a lot of gut issues, and then you just mentioned your bowel. And I know I've watched several of your videos and you've kind of talked about that. Can you kind of lead us through that journey? Because I know I had some issues. Even though I was keto first, when I went carnivore, I had about, nothing like you, but 3 or 4 weeks of just like constant diarrhea. And just that amount of time was like, if I wouldn't have had, like you, if I wouldn't have had other benefits that kept me here, that would have made me, want to go. But because of like, I had energy and all these kind of other great benefits, I was like, I'm going to stick to this, that. And it was summer vacation. Being a teacher, I have summers off. So I was able, like, if I was in my classroom, there's no way. I know you, I've heard you talk about when you were working and stuff, and it got quite embarrassing at certain moments. And I wouldn't have been able to do it, but it was fortunate for me. It was in the summer, so I had access to my bathroom, and I just dealt with it until, until it went away.
Until it went away. Yeah. So for me, I mean, the IBS diarrhea has been decades. Like, I've had it for a long time. Like, when I look back, I was having issues with diarrhea off and on, even kind of as a teenager, and not not bad, but it was there, you know, any kind of anxiety or anything, it would kick off always. And has seemed to be like, since I was a teenager, if anything goes up with my gut, that's what happens. And it still does now. Like, I mean, anxiety and stuff will kick it off a little bit now, but not really, not the same. But so when I started on the carnivore diet, that was one of the things I was hoping was going to resolve, because, you know, it was getting worse, and it was really, has been disrupting my life for a long time. You know, it's really hard to try and work and do your stuff. And I mean, I'm the breadwinner in the house. My husband had an accident back in 2000, and so he hasn't worked since then. So, you know, it's been kind of left. It's up to me, and I've got to be able to keep working, and so that kind of makes it a little bit more stressful. So, when I started on carnivore, as I said, I was hoping that was going to resolve, and it got a little bit better just initially, and I was like, oh, yay. And then it got worse again, and it got way worse. And so it actually became less controllable. And I think for me, a big part of that was, I've worked out, it was oxalate. I know it was oxalate dumping was huge for months and months and months. So the diarrhea didn't even start to settle down. I mean, it started to settle down off and on at about the 9-month point. So I'd have patches that were good, and I'd do videos. I'd be like, yay, I'm over my diarrhea. And they'd be like, oh, crap, it's back again.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And so, but that 9 months was pretty consistent. And I realized that fasting, if I did a longer fast, breaking my fast was a really dangerous time. I learned that the hard way one day when I broke my fast at lunchtime, and then had a client afterwards. And so I kind of eventually realized that was all to do with my gallbladder, and the gallbladder not working properly. So I've been taking Tudka now for about a year, and that's made a huge difference, I think. So that, yeah, it was on and off. And because the oxalate dumping side of things, I kind of realized that was a thing, because I don't know how much information you want me to go into, but it's hot and it burns because it's acid. When oxalate's leaving your body, it's acid. Oxalate is acidy. And so you kind of start to realize that, okay, this is what this is. You know, it's like some people describe, you know, after they had curry, which when people have curry, it's probably the same deal, because there's a lot of oxalate in turmeric and some of those spices. So that's probably what that is.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So that was a thing for quite a long time. And then, so over all this, because it's been 2.5 years now that I've been on the carnivore diet. And so I've experimented with all sorts of things, and worked out that because mold was, my story's so complicated. When I try and explain it, it's like,
I know it is. It opens another door, right? You start explaining one thing, and then you're like, oh, there's this.
Because like I said, always gut issues. And then I ended up, what really made things worse was I ended up with being affected by mold when we moved back to New Zealand. So I started my business back up in a building that I'd been in prior, forgetting that it had a mold issue. And I was in there for 4.5 years. So the mold, I kind of didn't realize that was really what was affecting my health until it was too late. So the mold made a huge difference. I've kind of realized that the mold had probably was growing in my body, because that's what it does. It'll grow in your digestive system. It can grow in your sinuses and your lungs and get into your brain and do all sorts of things. So I'm pretty sure that's what was going on. And so I've kind of been through a SIBO protocol, which made a massive difference as well. Working on my gallbladder, because the gallbladder, you know, if you've been on especially on a lower fat or a highly plant-based diet, the gallbladder stops working properly, because the bile just becomes thick and doesn't, because it's not being used enough. It becomes thick. And also, if you've got SIBO, those bacteria, or if you've got fungus, they can get into the gallbladder and cause problems as well and stop it from working properly. So that's where Tudka really helps, because it helps to thin that bile down and repairs the liver as well. So it kind of can really help over time. So yeah, so I've learned so much. And histamine, that was the other thing I was going to say, histamine. I realized that histamine has been an issue probably all my life as well. My mum has histamine issues too, and it's in my genetics. So I had my DNA done through Ancestry a few years ago now for mum, because she does genealogy. And so when I really started looking into all of this stuff, I put my DNA through a couple of just free things online or cheap ones, so that I could pull some bits out. And then with lots of Googling and kind of doing a bit of digging, I kind of realized that there's a few genetic things that explain some of what's been going on. And the histamine is one of those things. And so when I look back, I kind of like when I was a teenager and when I was young, I was always runny nose, sneezing in the mornings. I never considered myself to have hay fever. That's why I didn't kind of realize that it was an issue. But I would have problems, with dust, with my eyes and my nose running and stuff. And then as I kind of learned more about histamine, I realized it can cause diarrhea, it can cause anxiety and panic attacks, it can cause depression, it can cause migraines and headaches, it can cause period pain, it can cause all of these different symptoms that most people don't realize that it can do. And I started digging into that one day after I had a client who was coming after lunch. I don't know whether I'd been fasting, but I had a couple of lamb chops for lunch, and I was fine. Like I was feeling really good in the morning. I'd had no clients in the morning. That's right. And I was feeling amazing. And then had lunch, and then I was probably about an hour or two before my client came, and I was kind of back and forth to the toilet. And I was like, okay. And then she got on the table and she was here for a massage. And when I went in to start her massage, I just had this massive panic attack. And I was just like, I had to excuse myself, go to the loo because I had diarrhea. And I was like, what the hell just happened? And so that was when I really started digging into the histamine and realized that histamine can cause all of that. And that's what had happened. So I'd been okay, had lunch. I'd been doing a lot of dry brining of my meat in the fridge. And these lamb chops had been in the fridge probably for a couple of days, dry brining. And I think that's what happened. My histamine levels just went boom, and panic attack. So that was when I really started to learn what histamine can do. And because histamine and oxalate and that, they're all connected, they're all intertwined, they all affect each other. So it's really complicated, and it's a real minefield to try and work through, yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like you kind of have several, I don't know, 2 or 3 conditions, but they're all kind of overlapping, right? And so it's like the symptoms are probably being caused in some kind of way by all of them put together. So that's
all affect each other.
Yeah, totally. It seems hard to address. So when in terms of histamine, I've heard that histamine is kind of like it's like a bucket where your body can take so much, but if you hit the top of that bucket, that's when it's like all bets are off and you sort of get all of those symptoms. Is there any way to sort of make that histamine bucket bigger, or do you just have to work within what you have?
Improving gut health can really help, and it's definitely getting better for me. It's less of an issue, but it's still there. Like I had my son and daughter-in-law around for dinner on Friday night, and so we got half a cow just recently from them. They grow their own animals, and I got salamis made, and so I cut up quite a bit of the salami. The salami's the first time we've eaten any of it, so they've been sitting in the fridge aging for I don't know, a couple of months now. And so I decided to cut one, and so sliced it up and had quite a bit of that before dinner. And then had a roast. I had lemon juice. If I have lemon juice too much, it all kind of because citrus fruits are histamine liberators. I had lemon juice and sparkling water and a fair bit of the salami and stuff. And then yesterday I felt like I had hay fever, so I had itchy eyes and nose kind of running, eyes are still a little bit, and just mood was really a bit all over the place. And so and it's just histamine. So but I can push it further than I was able to, a year ago. And so things are definitely improving. And I think it'll just be a matter of time and me just gradually healing and getting stuff sorted out. But it's definitely taking its time to heal this body. But I mean, for others it does as well, even younger people. I was listening to Bella, Steak and Butter Gal, the other day, talking about what she's doing because they want to start having children. And, she was talking about her histamine and stuff. And she said 5 years, it took her about 5 years for her body to really come right. And she was young. So, it's just time.
Yeah. I know. I wonder about that because there are some things, I want to talk to you a little bit about weight loss because I went keto first and I lost weight on keto. Like you said, you lost weight on keto. Yep. And when I went carnivore, which for me was just by accident out of sheer laziness, not wanting to cook the vegetables, and then I just didn't. And then and then it was like, now I'm carnivore. And then I was like, oh, this is actually a thing. Like I started hearing Dr. Berry talk about it. I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually a thing, and it's healthy. And oh my gosh, vegetables actually aren't that good for you. And I think I'm just going to eat this way now. But I will tell you, almost all of my other things, my mental health, my energy, my sleep, my joints, all that stuff improved. But I put all the weight right back on. Not that I'm overweight, but the 20 pounds that I had lost on keto, I just put that on in the last year and a half. Now it's stable now, but I'm not going to say I'm happy about it. I wish that I had kept that off. But to me, it's like this trade-off, right? It's like I would rather have these 20 pounds and have all of the energy. And I think my thyroid is healing and all of these awesome things. And deal with the 20 pounds, and maybe someday I'll figure it out, or my body will, or I don't know. But can you share a little bit about your weight loss or lack thereof, or progress, or the things you've tried? I know you're laughing.
So my weight's been an issue all of my life. It's another thing that's been ongoing forever. And that was one of the things when I started on Carnivore. I was like, yes, I might lose some weight, but my weight loss has been so incredibly slow. So I'm down probably. So when I was on keto and had lost 6 kilos, and then when I started on Carnivore, I was so hungry. I couldn't get enough food into me for months and months and months. And so I just went with it, and I gained those 6 kilos back plus a bit, I think. I can't remember where I went to, but I think I might have done another couple of kilos or something on top of that. So I am down now probably about 10 kgs, I think, but I've got probably another 20 to go. And I've been, like, according to the scales, like if I look at the scales, I have been stalled basically for probably a year. The scales haven't really moved, but my body composition is still changing. So my shape has changed. I've got clothes that I haven't been able to. I've got a pair of board shorts. They're kind of one of my testing devices. They've got no stretch in them. And they were board shorts that I was wearing when we were in Australia, just before we left Australia to come back to New Zealand. So that was it'll be 10 years in July since we've been back. And I've never been able to wear them since we came back to New Zealand, because that first year, once I got into that Māori building, my weight just all of a sudden went boom and went up. So my weight had been fairly stable for a lot of years. Still overweight, but have been pretty stable, and definitely not as heavy as I'd been in the past. But so it went up, and I haven't been able to wear those board shorts. So now they fit again, and they're actually getting quite loose around the waist, because I've got more waist than I don't know whether I've ever had a waist like I've got at the moment. So it's like there's more curves, and so it's all changing, but it's so frustrating. And we had my thyroid. I think my thyroid's always been an issue, and we had our thyroid levels tested a few months back, because I was pretty sure that hubby's was low, because he was losing beard hair. Like, he's got this long beard. There was hair everywhere, and his hair. And so, both of our levels, because I've got Ken Berry's Common Sense Labs book, so both of our levels were well outside of what the optimal range is, both low. So he seems to be good now. Like, his beards, we're taking iodine, and his beard's not shedding anymore. Don't have to clean the plug hole out in the shower every 5 minutes. And so that's improved. And for me, I think that my thyroid is probably still low. I still have issues with my feet swelling a bit, and just, there's just little things. And then, of course, the weight. But I think that there's actually more going on with me than that. I'm going to do some videos talking about this, because I've been kind of looking into information about blue light. So I just actually had an insulin test done just last week, and I just got the results this week. And my insulin levels have got worse. Like, they were getting better, and then they had gone up. So they weren't even in the very good range, but they were down not too bad. So the very good range, according to Common Sense Labs, is between 5 and 8 of the American IU measurement. In September last year, I was 10. So I was like, oh, that's not too much higher than out of the very good range. And then by April, they were 15. And then my test I just had was 14. So it's heading back down again. I think it's to do with me not getting out in the light enough. I think it's to do with blue light toxicity. And so I've been listening to Sarah Kleiner and Jack Cruz and different people talking about blue. I've listened to it a little bit, but I'm kind of delving into that, the whole leptin resistance side of things and the insulin, and I'm pretty sure it's to do with that. So because, like when you're not eating any carbs, your insulin should be getting better and your insulin resistance should be getting better. But apparently insulin resistance can be caused by blue light, even in the absence of carbs. So
Wow.
that's a really interesting thing as well. And it explains some things maybe for some people on carnivore who start having issues. It could explain why.
Yeah, because I'm not the best, when I've been teaching all day, teaching is tiring. I have 31, 10 and 11-year-olds and just me. And so I'm exhausted. And I don't always want to come home and get outside. What I want to do is come home and curl up on the couch. And a lot of times that is what I do. Now, during vacations, summer vacation, things like that, I'll tend to get out more, because I'm not having that 8 hours of, exhaustion or work-related stress and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it is not easy for me to take some time outside. Are there other things, like, of course, going outside is the best, but are there other things like red light therapy? I'm just thinking, because you said blue light, like red light therapy and like blue blockers. Would those things help?
Yeah, that can all help. I've just ordered some blue blockers. We did have some, because I kind of delved into this a little bit, but didn't really understand the leptin side of things. Because part of my reason for looking at it was I've realized ages ago that I must be leptin resistant, because I have issues with my satiety when I'm eating. I don't know when to stop, and that's part of my problem as well. And so when I first started on carnivore and everybody's saying, "Oh, just eat until you're comfortably stuffed," it's like, I don't even know what that is. I can eat and eat and eat sometimes, but I've had phases where it's got better, but then it gets worse again. And so that's kind of always been a thing for me as well. So it's like, okay, so but why am I leptin resistant? And so I just actually started looking into it this last week or so. I'm like, so why? And it's because leptin's released from different areas of the body, but the main area is the fat cells. So if you're overweight, you're automatically going to have higher leptin in your body, and then your brain starts going, no, I don't want any more of that, and it becomes resistant, like our cells become insulin resistant. And so then leptin and insulin kind of balance each other out. So it just all kind of gets out of whack. And the leptin is very much influenced by light and the light receptors in our eyes. And so the blue blockers that I bought the last time, we got them to go over our glasses, but they were too heavy. They just really hurt. So I've ordered some. I sold those, and I've ordered some clip-on ones. And so, but we're making sure that we get out in the morning and just watch the sun coming up, even if we can't see it. It's been so cloudy here lately, you can't see the sun. But we get outside anyway, at daybreak, even if it's just for 15 minutes. And then again in the evening as the sun's going down. And I think I'm noticing a difference with my appetite already, because apparently it doesn't take long for it to reset. Like, you can go on a camping trip for a week and it'll help to reset your leptin. So yeah.
Gosh, that might be a good idea for me to just kind of suck it up and get out there and do that. I put in a patch of grass in my backyard for grounding, and I absolutely love it. But whenever I go out there, I get bitten by bugs. Like, my feet are just covered in bug bites. I'm like, I don't even see these bugs. I don't know. And I've tried insect repellent, and I'm like, what is happening? So it's like a trade-off. I enjoy it. And when I'm out there, I feel really good, and I feel kind of relaxed and settled and, and grounded, but not just, not literally. I mean, yes, literally, but also just kind of, everything just kind of normalizes. I feel myself becoming calm. I really enjoy it. But I don't enjoy the bug bites and the itchy feet that I have. It's terrible. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but I do enjoy it. I still go out there. I just know that I'm going to put up with a couple of days of itching on my ankles. When I do that. So maybe I'm kind of hoping, because I'm in Southern California, I'm hoping now that we're heading into winter, maybe the bugs will all go hibernate or whatever it is they do. And, I'll be able to enjoy my grass a little bit. But Yeah, I feel like I need to get out there and see because I have a week off this week for Thanksgiving. So we have Thanksgiving here
Oh, right. Yeah.
on Thursday. And so we don't teach for this week. And so you said a week. So if I get out there every day, we'll see if by the end of Thanksgiving break, if I notice a difference. Because I tend to have that too with the just being able to eat and eat and eat. And I thought, I mean, yes, you're probably right. It probably has to do with that because I do tend to be, more of an inside house person. But also I had
you got to take these
I'm sorry?
off. You got to take these off too when you're in the sun.
So the light can get through.
Yep.
And I do that. I go out there. I can't see anything. I'm like, oh, everything's blurry, but at least the light's getting in. Yeah, when I go for walks in the morning, I'll just take them off and hold them. Periodically, but I really can't see. I'm pretty blind without them. Anyway, I wondered, I don't know if in your research if you found this, but I had some pretty disordered eating patterns, my whole life with binging and restricting, thinking that calories were the way to go. So I would restrict to try to lose weight. And then, you can only do that so long and then you're starving. And then here comes the binge. You put the weight back on and then you go back into that restricting cycle. And I'm pretty sure I had to have messed up my metabolism, my satiety signals and all that just by doing that for, I don't know, 30 odd years of my life. I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of women have been there, but did you experience anything like that?
Yep. Yeah. That was me my whole life as well. Cause I always had weight issues. And so I, like even as a teenager, I mean, me and my girlfriend were always talking about, we had this thing that if we could shrink our stomach and, then we would just naturally eat less and we would lose weight. And so we were always, starving ourselves and doing different things. And so that's like everything that I've done, like even with all my dietary changes and stuff, it's been about health, but it's always been about weight as well. Always like my weight, my weight's been a thing, even when I was little, like in primary school. I don't know where it came from, but I always just thought I was fat even when I wasn't. And body image was always really bad. And so the whole disordered eating thing, and I would gorge myself at times, like the overeating was always a real thing. Always had a big appetite. And I remember as a kid, if I was unsupervised, I remember one Christmas just eating so much, I ended up vomiting. And then I went back and started eating again. It was just, I just, it always been a thing, the whole, binging and, never did the make myself vomit thing from eating too much. Thought about it years ago.
But totally. Yeah. Same thing here. I would just starve myself for days and days and try to keep like each day, try to like beat myself on calories. Right. So if I ate 1,000 today, then tomorrow it's 950, the next day it's 900 and trying to get that number just low. So I know you have, is it lipedema? Is it lipedema or lymphedema that you have in your legs? Yeah, we had Dr. Leslyn Keith on my show that I do, Linus Lifestyle, and she's a lymphedema and lipedema expert. And I was wondering if you could sort of chime in and tell about your experience with that and maybe what you're doing. Besides, I know the diet can really help, but like how has the diet helped, if at all? And are you doing anything else like maybe vibration plate or massage or anything like that?
So I didn't even know I didn't know anything about lipedema until around about the time that I started on Carnivore. I hadn't heard of it. And what happened was I joined, I don't know if you've heard of Ashley Black with her fascia blasters.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, you have? Okay. So I joined her Facebook group and I bought some fascia blasters, not for cellulite, but because Facebook kept advertising them to me and they kept advertising the cellulite side of things. And I was like, not interested, just scroll on past. And then there must have been an ad. There must have been something to do with, like something a little bit different that kind of caught my attention. And so I started looking. So I ended up ordering some. I've actually got some in my clinic and I use them on clients. And I've got a set that I have here for myself as well that I use. Not as much as I should, but I do use. They're great for if you injure yourself, if you've got any kind of muscle pain and stuff. So anyway, in this Facebook group, I started seeing the occasional woman talking about lipedema and putting up photographs of their legs and things. And I think I had maybe heard of it before, but I hadn't really looked at it. And so I went and looked, and I looked at the photos of the legs, the typical kind of legs. And I was like, oh my God, that's my mother and me and probably my daughter. And I was like, oh, and then so I kind of looked into it a little bit. Now I didn't want it to be. I kind of ignored it for a little bit because I didn't want it to be a thing because it just adds another thing onto the pile, you know. And it's like,
right,
oh.
one
So,
more thing
but
to
then
manage.
but then I started looking into it more, and I realized, yeah, okay, so this is a thing because I've got, like I've always had, especially before carnivore, I always had pain in my legs. I still do. Like if I poking around my knees and that, they're always quite tender still. Have lumps in there as well. I remember like probably maybe 6 years ago, I remember saying to my husband, feel my arms, because I know what feels normal. I've been working on people's bodies for 30 years, so I know what's normal, but I could feel that I had all these like little lumps, like little grains of rice in my arms and, lumps in my legs and stuff. And I remember saying to my sister, have you got lumps in your fat? And she was like, no. She's looked at me weird. And I was like, oh, I said, well, I have. And so I didn't know what that was. Since I've been on carnivore, the arms have gone, like the lumps that were in my arms have gone. So I don't really feel that anymore, but still in my legs. And I remember when I was younger, because I started exercising and became pretty much an exercise addict for a lot of years. Started that when I was 30. And I remember when I was young, if I didn't exercise and I was doing too much, my legs would just ache. It was not worth not doing it because they would be so sore. And I think that was probably part of the lipedema thing as well, because I've always known that I had lymphatic issues. So I've had problems with my feet swelling since I was 15. And I swell up, like when I get up in the morning, I can be like a size, or it feels like 2 sizes, sometimes smaller. And then within a couple of hours, everything just expands. And clothes get clothes that I can fit in the morning, I can't fit them later in the day and stuff. So, and I've realized over the years, okay, so that's lymphatic, but the lipedema explains a lot of that, because I have lipedema in my abdomen. I think I have it in my boobs as well. And so, and that's a bit rarer to have it in your stomach. Some women do. And it's funny because I actually had a client just recently. It's the first person that I've ever had in all my years of treating people who's come in and mentioned lipedema because she has it. And I think she expected me to not know what it was. And I was like, oh my God, I've got that as well. And she's had surgery. She's had multiple surgeries for hers. But she's got it in her abdomen as well, in her stomach. And because that was one of the first places I kind of noticed that there was lumps and bumps, was in the fat in my belly. Because the first one I was quite big and I didn't know what it was. And so I actually went, that was when the thyroid was overactive. I went to this doctor and she goes, oh no, it's just a lipoma. And I was like, oh, okay. So, but then I could feel there was other stuff underneath that eventually. And it kind of feels like brainy, lumpy tissue that's sore to touch. And so, yeah, when I started learning about the lipedema, I was like, okay, so that's what that is. I haven't ever been to a doctor to have it confirmed or anything. There are a few doctors here in New Zealand that know what it is, obviously, but not many. I think they're pretty thin on the ground. And I don't need someone to tell me, because I kind of know what's going on in my body. So, but one of the things when I first started on the carnivore diet, because I bought these fascia blasters, I'd taken photos of my legs around the time that I started on carnivore, like just before I started. And then I had a photo that I'd taken maybe 2 or 3 weeks after I started the carnivore. The difference in my legs was huge. Even though I was gaining weight, my legs were way smaller. Like the shape had changed and everything. And so I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. It's quite amazing, the difference. I actually put it into the lipedema group so people could see the difference. And it's just the less inflammation. It's just less inflammation. And so less fluid, I guess. And just, things kind of just tightened up a bit, I suppose. But the carnivore diet, I think, is the best diet for lipedema, just because it's so much less inflammatory than eating a lot of plants and stuff. And I guess if you can work out, if you want to eat other stuff, working out what inflames you and what doesn't is kind of key, and that can be a little bit tricky. I mean, I'm still kind of working on that even with what I eat, because I still have there's things in my diet that are still causing inflammation. I think I don't know whether it's eggs or what it is, or whether it's just oxalate dumping. It's really hard to know, but something still causes inflammation in my body right now.
So that's the second time you've mentioned oxalate dumping. Have you ever tried like slowing that down? Like I know Sally Norton talks about drinking a cup of tea a day or things like that to sort of slow down the dumping, so you're not in quite such misery. Have you tried any of those type of strategies?
Yes, I did, especially when it was really bad in the beginning. I was trying all sorts. I tried all of Sally's things. I've tried, adding a potato back in a couple of times a week, which did make a difference at one point. Different things like that. But I think that my body was just pulling so much. It seemed like I couldn't stop it at that point. It was just doing it, and it didn't matter what I kind of tried. It was just doing it. Whereas now, so I'll go off all oxalate stuff, and then off all oxalate pretty much, and then if I start having some issues, I'll add some black pepper back in, and like I've been doing that again just recently because I've been having a lot of kind of upper back pain and other bits and pieces going on that I think is oxalate dumping, and so yeah, I'll just add a couple of little bits in it, and it helps. It definitely seems to help now, but it didn't back in the beginning. It just seemed like I couldn't stop it. It was just doing its thing, and it might have been the mold influence as well.
The only symptom of oxalate dumping that I think I've had, and it's been this recurring, I mean, not very frequently, but I get this rash on my chest.
Yep.
It's like these red bumps. It doesn't look very nice. It's very itchy and like annoying for like several days, and then it'll just go away. And I'd say since going carnivore, that's maybe happened 4 times.
Okay.
So it's been fairly minor, which is, I mean, I definitely went through my phase. I didn't know, I thought spinach was good for you. And so I definitely went through my phases of eating like chicken breast and spinach, and like a lot of spinach because it's going to like fill you up. And I went through my, the smoothie phase with putting the spinach in there. And I would even do that for my kids because I thought, well, they're not eating vegetables. I have to sneak them in. And so I would, make these berry smoothies with yogurt and stuff and throw spinach in them. But I'll tell you, my son went carnivore in February, and boy, is he doing amazing. He was 15 at the time. He is now 16. And his ADHD symptoms are probably 85 to 90% better. It's just amazing. So for mental health, I think, it's just, I just noticed with myself, with my anxiety and all that, it just got so much better. And everything we tried with him, nothing had worked until this. Have you had any mental health benefits of any kind?
Yeah, definitely calmer. So anxiety's always been a thing with me. It's right since I was little as well. And it's definitely better. I still have issues with it. And I think sometimes it's if my histamine's up a little bit. I think that I think there's just some stuff I need to work through as well with regards to that. But I'm definitely calmer. I've had issues with depression all my life as well. And that's definitely a lot better. I find if I keep my fat higher, it's better. And I'm a bit slack, like I tend to focus more on the protein and I'll kind of forget about the fat. And because my bowel had been being such an issue as well, it would put me off eating higher fat because it's just, and so if I tend to I'll kind of fall off the fat wagon for a little bit, and then I'm like, oh, I need to increase my fat again. So at the moment I'm tracking my food again, just trying to keep my fat level higher and keep an eye on my calorie intake as well, because now that my bowel and that is so much more settled, I really want to get some weight off, and that's why I'm kind of digging into all this other stuff as well and trying to work out how to get my body to do that, because it's definitely seems to have a resistance for it.
So what are your macros? Like, what are your favorite macros, or what macros are you currently eating since you're tracking?
I tend to, like, if I eat naturally, I'm usually, like, if I just track what I normally eat, I'm usually sitting around 30-70, or sometimes less than a bit 70, a bit less than 70 of the fat. I didn't say that right, but less than 70% fat. But if I go up around 80%, I actually feel a lot better. I feel a lot better mentally and stuff. I did that a while back because I'd been listening to Stephanie, keto person. And she's quite interesting, her take on things. I mean, I think all of our bodies are different. I mean, I don't think she's ever had any children, and she's always been really fit and everything. She went on to keto originally just to help her mum. So she's always been in a good place with her body, but she obviously works with other people. So, and she reckons that the higher fat is the way to go. So I did try it. I tried that. That was back in April of this year. And yeah, I felt a lot better mentally. At that point, it still gave my bowel issues. And that was one of the things that put me off. And also I had my insulin tested. My insulin had gone up and I didn't know why. And so that I stopped it because I was like, my insulin was good the last 2 tests, and now it's, it was going down, now it's going up, and I'm on this high fat diet. So it was that why. But I actually now don't think that was why. I think it was my lifestyle. We'd moved house and I wasn't going outside very much because I work from home. And so in the last house that we were in, I was working from one of the bedrooms. And so if the weather was bad, I might not go outside for 3 days, And so, yeah, when I think back, I'm like, yeah, that's probably what that was, now learning about the light side of things. But yeah, my macros. And so I'm trying to get my fat levels up a bit, but kind of monitoring the way that my bowel behaves with it as well. So trying to just kind of taper it up a little bit. And my calories intake, I'm in two minds about with the whole calories thing, like whether you need to pay attention to it or not. I'm trying to keep a bit of a deficit, but then some days I find that I end up going over that. But I'll keep tracking and see how I go. And yeah. I've only been back at it for just over a week. So yeah.
What's your favorite way to add fat? A lot of times I like to add butter just because A, it's easy, B, it's delicious. And sometimes I just feel like I need a bite of butter. Like you're talking about the mental health being so much better. It's like I'm getting ready for work and something tells me just go whack off a slice of butter and eat it. And I do. And I find myself on those days driving to work, like kind of feeling happier. So I like butter, but I bought a half cow too, although mine's almost gone now, but I still have all the fat from that cow because I asked for the fat trimmings. I haven't gotten into them yet because this is my first like big beef purchase like that. And they put them all in one package and they're all frozen together. And I'm like, that was dumb. I should have asked them for like, can you put them in like, I don't know, third pound or quarter pound, packaging. So it's this giant. And so I need like an ice pick or something so I can chip it off. Because I know once I unthaw it, I have to. So anyway, I've just been like, I just haven't gotten into it, but I keep thinking how delicious that sounds. Like it sounds so good to me to like put some of that in the air fryer. It's something that I've seen other people do. Yeah, I haven't tried it. Is that something you do, or what? How do you like to add your fat?
Sometimes I have, air fried fat with salt is great. I've actually got some in the freezer, but when we got our cow, I couldn't get the fat. I don't know what they do with it. They're obviously on sell some of the fat, I think, which is a bit of a pain. If it was me with the cow and dealing with them, I would say to them, I want that fat. But yeah, I asked and didn't get it, but that's okay. But yeah, air fried fat is great. I was like, when I was doing the 80%, one of the things that I started doing was making butter mayo. And so, I mean, butter's one of my favorites. So I make butter mayo, with the butter and the egg yolks, but I was also making mayo with beef tallow and egg yolks and pork lard and egg yolks. So, because the beef tallow, like I'd like to find a way to get more beef fat in because it's higher in, oh God, what is it? Something that helps with weight loss. It's one of the fats that are in there. I can't actually think what it's called off the top of my head right now. But yeah, it's one of the fats that are in it. One of the fatty acids is better for weight loss, And so and if I just eat the tallow out of because we buy it in containers, like it's suet that we buy in the to cook things in. I've tried eating that. It's out of the container, but it's kind of like wax. But if you mix it and make a mayo out of it, the mayo goes quite hard when it's in the fridge because it's beef tallow, but it actually tastes quite good. Or you can mix it half and half with butter, and that kind of makes it a bit better as well. So that's one way that I was getting a lot of fat in when I was doing that high fat. Because when I was doing that high fat carnivore diet early this year, I was really restricting my protein as well. So yeah, I might end up trying that again. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I go through phases of thinking like I need to try this or that or whatever, and then I go through
Yeah,
other phases where I'm a little bit more relaxed about it, and especially when I'm not working, I don't want to,
yeah,
I don't stick to my windows so much. You know, teachers, we go by the bell, right? A bell rings like Pavlov's dog.
yeah.
So the bells ring for morning and recess and lunch and all this
Mm,
stuff, and so yeah, on
yep.
days when I'm teaching, I intermittent fast all the way until lunchtime.
Mm,
And on days when I'm home, I just eat when I
yep.
start to feel hungry. So it
That's,
just kind of
that's
depends.
something that I've just done is I've just flipped it around so that I'm eating my main meal in the morning. I've thought
Mhm.
about doing that for ages, and then I finally decided to try it. So we have our hubby is as well. So we have our main meal in the morning, and then we just have something else. He has a sourdough bread later in the day, and I'll have some eggs or yogurt or whatever later in the day, anytime from about maybe 2 till 4, usually, just depending on work as well. But yeah, that's I've been doing that for the last week and a half. So I thought that over time that might help as well, because there's talk with the whole leptin side of things about eating within an hour or so of, like, if you're watching the sun come up, eating in that kind of first hour as well. It helps with cortisol levels and all that sort of stuff too. So, and leptin. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I've
I thought,
always enjoyed that, and I've never been the like breakfast food. Like I this morning I had picanha for breakfast, like around sunrise, in fact, just because I
yeah, right,
wanted it,
yeah,
and it sounded
good,
really good. I had some picanha
perfect.
steaks, and I threw them in the air fryer, and I ate
Yep.
that. I tend to do better because otherwise I feel like I'm waiting. Like I've never liked fasting. I wish I did. I wish I didn't feel like I start to get a headache. I'm hungry.
Mm,
I
mm,
don't enjoy that. Feeling of just like white knuckling it
yeah.
until
Yep.
the
Yep.
time is up. And so I tend to enjoy eating my bigger meal, early like that. And then just
Yeah.
having, like you said, either just a piece of chicken or some eggs or something like that in the
Yep.
evening.
Yep.
I do
Well,
better with that too.
I was fasting most of the time. Like a lot of the time for the last couple of years, I'd fast right through until dinner time, because of the way my bowel was. It was easier, just it
Yes.
felt easier anyway, just not to eat. And sometimes I'd be starving, and because that's another thing. I was listening to Sarah Kleiner again this morning. I think it was someone this morning anyway, with the leptin side of things, and they were saying that, if you are really hungry and you don't eat, you're training your brain to ignore those signals, the ghrelin and the leptin. And so
Mhm.
you're putting things even more out of whack, which kind of makes sense as well, So I guess that if your metabolism's not right, and you are doing the fasting and kind of white knuckling it through, then you're possibly might be causing more of a problem with all of that as well. So I don't know, who knows?
Well, we've
Mm.
been talking for almost an hour. I just want to ask one
Oh,
more question. I know.
very fast.
um, What is your favorite carnivore meal? Is it beef? Is there a favorite cut of beef that you have? What is your favorite thing that you like to eat?
Oh, crikey. Favorite thing I like to eat. Leg of lamb is pretty good.
Hmm.
Good. Well, actually, lamb rump is one of my favorites at the moment. Lamb rump is so good. If just do it in the air fryer, it's really good. And beef, probably ribeye. Love ribeye.
Yeah, there's a reason everybody says ribeye. I don't. I say picanha. I'm converting
Yeah,
everyone though. They're like, I still like ribeye, but picanha is a close second. That's
yeah,
usually
I
what
do
people
like
are
that
telling
too.
me.
Yeah,
It's
yep,
so
yep,
good.
yeah. Same,
all,
same.
all right, Sue, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me. This was just as good as I thought it was going to be. It was really lovely to
Great.
meet you. Thank you so
Yes, you
much.
too. You too. It's been fun.
Okay.
All right. See you later.